The TrekWorks YouTube channel is sponsored by Tenant Controls, makers of lighting kits, soundboards, and more. Tenant Controls brings your models to life. Hello there everybody, Boyd here with you, and welcome to part one of our Jason and the Argonauts diorama build that we're going to be doing here on the channel. I'm a really happy guy today. This kit came in the mail this morning, came through just fine, nothing got broken or anything like that, and I'm just really happy to have this kit. Like I mentioned in the teaser video, this is an extremely rare kit. I can't find any pictures of it at all on the internet or anything on YouTube. It was put out by Monsters in Motion in the mid to early 90s, and so it's pretty old. And you can see the box is a little bit worn here. It's been in storage for quite a while. The guy who had it for a long time and just decided he wasn't going to be able to build it, decided to let it go. So I was lucky enough to be there in the right place in the right time to be able to get it, I guess. And talking about this particular subject, again, this is one of my very favorite fantasy sci-fi movies of all time, Jason the Argonauts. You know, it's a little dated today. It came out in 1963. You know, by today's standards, the special effects aren't really that spectacular, but back then it was it just blew everybody away that went to the theater to see it. The stop motion animation that was done by the Hollywood master Ray Harryhausen pretty much put him on the map with the animation that he did with all the various creatures that were depicted in the film, everything from the giant bronze statue of Talos to the fighting skeletons that we had here, the Hydra. Just a fantastic movie, just loaded with action and fantastic scenes if you're into this kind of stuff. And so this is going to be probably the centerpiece to my collection of figures so far. I'm just really thrilled to have it. And it's a really large kit. Don't be fooled by the box size here. I'll just kind of put my hand up here. The base, part of the base, actually comes in came in the rest of the box. It wouldn't even fit inside this. Just the center part of the base here, the bricks or these big rocks or whatever they are inside the box. But the main part of the base and everything was outside of the box. The actual figure of Jason himself and all the skeletons are around 7 inches tall, so they're 1/8 scale. So they're pretty large. So you can just imagine, just by the size there, how big this thing's going to be. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take everything out of the box and show you everything, and then talk about the build plan in this first kind of introduction to the video build series. Then next we'll come back with part one just a day or two later, maybe even a little sooner, maybe the next day, and I'll start working on it. We're going to start off with doing some work on the base. I'm going to start doing the basic painting, getting the weathering and everything done on the rocks and the lower part here. Now I'll mention that the Jason figure itself here is made out of resin, and I had a look at it. It's a beautiful casting. It's an exact likeness of the actor that played Jason in the movie. Can't remember his name, but the skeletons are actually made out of sort of pewter, like metal. So I'm going to have to do some research on what type of glue or adhesives or whatever the method I'm going to use to build the skeletons. We want to make sure that they turn out really strong. I'm not sure if regular CA glue would be strong enough to hold these guys. Just having a brief look at the instructions, which we'll see in just a second, they recommend doing some pinning on these things. So we're going to have to look into that a little bit. Now the basic figure of Jason itself will be pretty straightforward since it's resin. I'll just use regular CA glue like I did on the Kraken figure to put him together. But on the skeletons, we're going to have to dig into that a little bit. So as those of you watching this, if you've had any kind of experience with working with these little metal figures or anything kind of similar to that, I'd appreciate some feedback. You could drop a line or two in the comments suggestion. I'll definitely listen to some of your suggestions there while I'm doing my own research and see what we can come up with. Because like I said, I want to make sure that they are going to be, durable and strong. The figures, from what I could tell, they're just kind of basic, and what they tell you in the instructions, you're going to have to slightly bend some of the metal parts to get, the different positions that these guys are in. Excuse me. You can see one that's kind of been knocked down here. You can see another one that's sort of crouching, and they're all slightly in different positions, so we're going to have to work on that. It says in the instruction that you can bend this stuff a little bit, but you want to be careful because you can break it if you're not careful. So it's going to be kind of tedious. I think building the skeletons is going to be by far the most difficult part of putting this kit together. But we'll just take our time and we'll make sure we do it right. So without further ado, guys, let's pause here real quick. We'll come back and I'll start pulling everything out of the box, and we'll take a look at this really fantastic kit. Be right back. So here we are back with you again, and it's time to look at the actual kit itself. I've pulled everything out of the box. This is the main part of the base, which is the platform that Jason's standing on top of when fighting off the skeletons. This is one huge solid hunk of resin, guys. I thought that Kraken that I worked on last time was heavy and thick. This thing is just massively heavy. I mean, it's got to weigh like 10 pounds. I mean, it's incredible. And it's beautifully cast. The detail on the outside here. This is actually the bottom. We'll flip this over in just a second once we pull all the parts out and show you the whole thing. As I mentioned, I'll bring in the other piece here in just a minute, but there's the whole kind of the ground area that goes around it with the, that you actually mount some of the skeletons on. We'll have Jason on top along with one skeleton standing on the top of it. But I guess one of the most important things that we'll look at up first here is the figure itself of Jason. And this is beautifully cast. I'm just really impressed with it. It's got some really minor seam lines on it that will sand down really easily, but the likeness of the face and the detail on his uniform here is sort of old style gladiator kind of battle armor kind of clothes that he's wearing here. Just looks fantastic. I'll get him up close here so you can see the likeness on the face. And all that detail that we'll have a lot of fun painting on there. Even the sandals that he's wearing, or the with the wrap around detail and everything, is really, really nice. We're going to have to go to the bottom here and install a couple of pins of some kind, because when we put them on top of that base, we definitely want to pin them down on there. I don't know if I'll glue it or not, but we want to have them so he's on there stable, and if I ever want to move it or take it somewhere to a model show or anything like that, I'll be able to pop him back off of there and pack it all up if I ever need to do that. So we'll definitely pin him. I'll probably just use a couple of small wooden dowels for that I can pick up over at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. But just giving you a up close look at him, and even look at the detail on the hair. I mean, it's just it's amazing. It's just really, really nice. And so we've got Jason himself. We've got this bag here which has some parts to his figure. Basically, only thing you have to build for him is attach his arms. I'll go ahead and pull those out. And then his sword in one hand and his shield in the other. You can see that they've got these sort of straps already cast onto his hand and on his arm here that mount to the shield itself. The shield just lays across the top on the, kind of flat. But the muscle tone and everything, the detail on his fingers is really, really good. Here on the other arm we have the lower grip of the sword itself. We'll just have to glue the sword onto that. A little bit of roughness here and there that'll need to be sanded out. There's a little bit of pitting, real minor, around his fingers here that we'll have to do a little bit of fill on, but nothing serious at all. We don't want to get too carried away. We want to keep most of the detail there. If you look here really carefully, you can see a little bit of a mold line right there, but we'll sand that down and get rid of that. And here is Jason's shield, which you can see the detail on the front of that. It's really nicely done. Backside's just kind of not a lot going on there, but it's got a little indentation where his arm goes, and then you can see the little edges where it glues to the straps that are molded onto his arm. We'll paint that up really nice. And then here are all the shields for the skeletons. They each have their own shields with this really nice kind of pattern going around the edges. Not much going on there on the back, just a little flat spot where you can glue it to their arm or whatever. Same thing on all of them. There's a total of, let's see if we can count these. There's 3, 4, 5, 6 shields for the skeletons. And here we have swords. And it looks like a dagger, or no, these are the tips for the spears that a couple of the skeletons have. So I don't see anything in here for the spears themselves, so we'll just have to use some little wood rods or something. We'll come up with something for that. But here are the, let's see if I can get these last 2 parts out. These are the, basically what the swords look like, and they look all the same pretty much. Got the kind of curved edge on the top there, that kind of part of the handle, and then the blade. And there are different types of swords. I guess one of them is slightly different. That might be Jason's sword, but it's more of a point, and the other ones are more of like broad type swords, if you can see the difference here. And there's a small little Jason and the Argonauts name plaque, which is nice. I was already kind of looking on this, like where I'd want to put it, where it wouldn't interfere with, you know, making it look realistic, but maybe we'll come up with something. So we have all that. We'll go ahead and put this stuff back in the bag so we don't lose anything. And we'll take a look at the skeletons, and that's where it starts getting into some really interesting stuff here. These things are really detailed, and there's a lot of parts to them. Okay, we'll seal that back up. Okay, we'll start pulling these out. First, you see that you have their sort of rib cage assemblies here. Now, the only thing I was a little disappointed in is that they're not cast hollow, you know, like where you can totally see through the ribs, which I was kind of hoping for. But that's all right. Once we do our paint detail on this, we'll do a black wash in there, and then we'll bring out the details on the top, and it'll still look pretty good. But you can see they come in halves here. You have to glue them together. Basically, I think at their sternum, kind of something like this. If I can kind of hold these up here for you. Get this together here. And we'll have to figure out which ones go to which. They might be, you know, they might have a few differences in them, but they glue together like that. And then you go on from there. I think these are all, yeah, these are all pretty much the same. These are all the rib cage assemblies, and then there, the back detail, you can see sort of the I think they call it the scapula bone or whatever. They're part of your shoulder. Getting too close, but the surface detail on those looks really good. And they're heavy. They're, like I said, they're made out of like some kind of cast or potted metal type material. So it's going to be interesting to figure out, like I said, how we're going to glue them together. Now, here we have the skulls, the upper part, and they're nicely detailed. They do all have a slight mold line running down the center that we're going to have to get rid of. But once they're all painted and everything, the detail of the teeth and the cracks in the skull and everything look to be pretty good. They should look pretty good once we get those all detail painted. Here we have some arms, and let's just find out something here that I was sort of curious about. Looks like the arms are all bent at about 90 degrees. I think they're pretty much all the same as far as what I can tell here. So, as it says in the instructions, we may have to bend these around just slightly to get our different poses and positions. But we'll see. And, you know, being that this is some type of a cast or potted type metal material, I guarantee you we won't be able to bend them very much without them breaking, so we're going to have to be really, really careful. That's the part that worries me the most, so I'm just going to have to take my time with that. Here we have a bag full of hands. Looks like you have, on one side you have the free hand, and on the other side you have them holding the hand grip of the sword. as you can see here. This is the open hand on the other side. Let's see, a couple of them might be different here. Let's take a look. Because some of them are represented as, you know, holding a spear and not the sword. Yeah, there's a couple of them that you can see that the hands are different. They don't have the shank part of the sword in their hand. They're just, you know, kind of clasping onto something. So that's the ones that are going to be used for holding onto the spears, I'm assuming. Okay, so other than that, they're all pretty much the same. And then we'll go over here to what's next. Looks like they're spinal columns with the pelvis. And they're look to be pretty much all the same. There's let's see how many have we got here. We've got 3, 4, 5. So 5 of them are basically in the standing up position, it looks like. So let's see what else we've got here. We've got some more arms bent 90 degrees, as you can see there. Or 45 degrees, I may be wrong about that, 45 degrees. And here we have a couple more. Now the gentleman had this kit, he actually started doing some work on this and just stopped, but here you can see one of the rib cages has been glued together and the spinal column's been attached. So you can kind of get an idea of how that's going to look. He's used some type of a glue on here. I can't tell what kind of a glue it is. It's sort of yellowish looking. It may be CA glue, I'm not sure. But like I said, I'm going to have to do some research on that. He's built, kind of pre-built 2 of the skeletons, and they all are in the same kind of, the spinal curvatures all the same on them. So we're going to have to figure out how to make these different poses, like I said. And we've got all the feet here. And there's a little, whoops, a hole in that bag. I hope none of them are lost. Just fell right out the hole there. I'll have to make sure. I'm going to have to get some new bags for this. But the feet look to be all pretty much the same. I can't see much of a difference in any of them. So we don't want to take them all out and wind up losing anything there. We'll just kind of leave those alone. Hopefully none of them are missing with that hole in the bag. I'll have to do a count on those here in a little bit. And we have some more legs, which these all look to be the same. I'll pull one out here and show it to you. They have a slight bend to them. This is, I'm assuming, is the upper half. Yeah, it's kind of got the socket there that goes into the pelvis, the knee. Detail on them is really good, but kind of a socket there that fits into the foot. And we've got one more set of arms here, bent again. And then this final one, I wasn't sure what these were. Oh, these are all their the jaw, the lower half of the skull with the teeth and everything. We'll show you one of those. They pretty much all look to be the same too. The detail on the teeth is really good, and the detail of the bone and everything is really nice there. So got those. There should be, let's count them here. Yeah, there's 7 of them. So there's 7 skeleton figures altogether, so as long as we've got enough parts to do all 7 figures, we'll be all right. Okay, so we've got that. Those are kind of the small, you know, detail parts. Now we'll take a look at the base itself. As you can see, I'll turn it over here. And man, this thing is a beast. Okay, and we'll just kind of show you the detail on the top. It's really nice. I mean, it's just awesome. Once this is all painted, I said we'll do a combination of airbrushing on this, some dry brushing, a wash, and we'll bring out all the, you know, we'll darken up all the little cracks, the crevices here, and then we'll bring out all that detail. These are like giant stones that have been put together, and do our different colors of shading on that. They do give you some painting recommendations in the instructions, and we'll take a look at those in just a second. The instructions are as basic as it gets. There's not much at all. So there's the base. Now I'm going to bring in the rest of the base here, which this gentleman, like I said, already did a little bit of work here, and he basically put some dark colored primer on this. You can see the bottom of it is this sort of resin color, kind of this orangish, pinkish, but he's done some priming on this in some dark brown primer, or dark gray, I should say. But the base basically sits like this, and you have the Jason that stands on the top. I can get him to stand up here, kind of in that position, somewhere like that. And then the other skeleton will go there. Let's get you up a little higher here. But just to give you a scale of my hand, I mean, this thing is pretty freaking big, and I'll have a hard time finding a place to put it, but I'll guarantee I'll make a place for it, guys. This is just too cool. I'm like I said, I'm really, really excited that I got it, and I'm going to enjoy building this one a lot. So there's a quick look at all this. We'll just be doing, our regular basic painting techniques. I'll airbrush this this lower part here. We'll do the same technique on the lower part of the blocks here that we do up on the top, so it kind of matches. We may add a little landscaping. I may add a few little loose rocks here and there to bring some more detail to it. Maybe a few weeds here and there, like I did on the Medusa diorama, because this is obviously outdoors and it's an old structure, so there might be some, a little bit of vegetation around it, and we'll make that look really nice. But the main focus is going to be doing a really nice paint job on our Jason figure here, and then detailing the skeletons and getting the poses to the skeletons where we want them to be. Now they depict on the cover here. Oh, we'll show you the. It also comes with a nice color photo to give you an idea of how the kit builds out. Now they have this depicted with a little bit more land around the sides of the base than what there actually is. They've got the skeletons a little bit off to the side. We're going to have them more, kind of in this area here. We can't have them over here too far. There's nothing to be standing on, so we're going to have to crowd them together a little bit more than what they've got depicted here. But we'll figure that out. But here is also the decorations for the shields on Jason's shield and the skeleton shields, and they've got these various patterns. Now this is just a piece of paper with some printing on this. I think I'm going to get a hold of my good friend Jerry at HTA Model Works and maybe see if I can send him this and have him actually print me a set of nice decals, just match these up. And it says you're supposed to cut these out and glue them on, but I think they would come out kind of wrinkly looking. I don't think they're going to lay down on there nice and flat, but maybe some of you out there know a way we can do that with some type of a glue and then a sealer over the top or something that might work. But short of that, I think Jerry could probably make these some really nice decals if I just sent him this, make them the same size and the same colors and everything. I'll talk to him about that and we'll see what we can get. Jerry always likes helping me out with really cool little projects like this. So let's look at the instructions now. Now, it came with this little certificate. It says Monsters in Motion, Certificate of Authenticity. This certifies that the enclosed model kit has been cast from the original masters and molds created by the original artist. Each piece was made with care by our exclusive VacuCast system. Terry Fitton, owner, I guess is the owner of Monsters in Motion, and Hai Lu, model maker and casting, and they both signed this, so you get a kind of a signed certificate with that, which is kind of nice. And here we have the instructions, which it doesn't get any more basic than this, guys. There isn't much going on here. They talk about, they have an exploded view of Jason there. They just tell you how to put them together. The base, just two basic pieces there. And then they show the exploded view of the skeleton. Now up here they've got an up-close picture of, I think it's like his shoulder socket. And they're recommending putting some kind of a pin in there. Drilling it out. It says, note, due to the weight and size of some parts, it is recommended that the parts are glued and pinned together whenever possible, especially metal parts. Figures must be pinned to the base as well. So we're going to have to take a look at that. Assembly tips: wash all parts in soap and water. To remove release agent used in the casting process, always remove excess material and seam lines from the pieces. Check fit all parts together prior to gluing and assembly. Leg and arm pieces can be bent slightly to change the pose of skeleton figures. Extreme caution must be taken as parts will break if bent too far. Refer to box art for possible skeleton poses. And then we have a little bit of painting guide here. Recommend using primer on all parts prior to any painting. This will give you a good foundation for the paint to adhere to, otherwise the paint might rub off during regular handling. Base. For the ground portion, paint base coat with brown and then dry brush with lighter shades of tan and brown. The platform and surrounding bricks should be base coated using dark gray and dry brush with lighter shades of gray. In some areas of the platform, use light washes of black to give a more weathered look. The skeletons. Base coat the bones with dark gray and dry brush using lighter shades of gray and ivory white. Use washes of brown and black on some of the recessed areas to add some color depth. The shield should be base coated with dark brown or black and then dry brush with gold. The weapons should also be painted in this manner using gold and silver dry brushing. The Jason figure itself, the flesh areas of the figure should be painted with shades of tan and flesh tones. The cloth areas should be shades of light tan and ivory white, trimmed in a faded orange or red. Use black or dark blue dry brush with gold or silver for the armor. The sandals should be dark brown, dry brush with lighter shades of brown to simulate leather. Refer to the box art for further reference and ideas, or maybe the movie, which is the best reference of all. Happy modeling. Oh, that's interesting they brought that up. And it says down here, note, shield decals are not self-adhering. They must be glued onto the shields with an adhesive. Be careful not to use too much glue, as excess will ruin and make them run. So, like I said, we'll probably have to look into something about these shields, you know, and maybe decals would be a better way to go. So there you have it in a nutshell, guys. There's a sort of a preview and you know, talk about the building plan here a little bit, and I'll look at the kit itself. Like I said, we'll be starting on this in the next couple days. Get a little piece of styrofoam stuck in there out of there. I'll go through and wash all these parts like we did on the Kraken. We didn't have any problems. We had a couple little tiny spots where the paint didn't want to stick too good on that, but after I kept working with it, it was alright. So we'll make sure we wash this up really good with our soap and water. Just our regular Dawn dishwashing detergent. I like to use that and a little bit of Mr. Clean. And we'll get any of the mold release agent off of this. We'll get everything cleaned up and ready to go. We'll start working on the base first. That'll be the first part of the video series, doing the painting and all that. And then we'll move on to part 2, which will be starting to build the skeletons. I'm not sure how many segments that'll take. And we'll finish up and wrap up the whole thing, building Jason himself and painting him. So, a lot to look forward to in this one, guys. I hope you're excited about it. I know I am. This is going to be one of the funnest builds I've worked on in a long time. Something completely different. I'm going to give it my best shot here. I'm definitely not a professional figure painter. This takes a lot of time and patience and a lot of practice to perfect that. So, I'll try to do the best I can, and hopefully it'll come out good, guys. So I'm really excited. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing. We really appreciate it. We always try to keep bringing you really interesting and unique stuff here on the channel, and this is definitely something like that. You won't see this one anywhere else, guys. Pretty cool. We'll be back in a day or two with part 2. See you then, everybody, and happy modeling.